Hey, cool kids. Before we jump into this episode, just wanted to remind everyone real quick, the grand opening of Cool Kids Comics and Toys is this Saturday, November 4th, from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. at 2055 Hempstead Turnpike in East Meadow. We'll have games, we'll have raffles, prizes, snacks. Come on down and join us at the store for the grand opening. We hope to see you there. All right, enjoy the episode.
Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to the Cool Kids Lunch Table Podcast with PJ and Mike. Now, please find yourself a seat at their table.
Hey kids, I'm Mike.
I'm PJ.
And today we'll be reviewing the movie Dumb Money, and we'll be discussing the GameStop stock short squeeze. And to help us out, we have our special guest, our old friend and old classmate, Mr. Brian Rossi. Welcome, Brian.
Hi, Mike. Hi, PJ. Thanks for having me.
What's going on, Rossi?
Yeah. So to give you guys some more background about Brian, he currently resides in Port Washington. He grew up in Levittown. He bartended and waited tables after graduating high school. He started off by a large sum of money and went away to SUNY Purchase College to study theater and film. He has performed and appeared in local theater projects and the New York City Fringe Festival as a leading actor. He spent 6 years as a performer in SAG for television and film. His projects include Boardwalk Empire, The Irishman, Jessica Jones, The Carrie Diaries, and Gotham. He also wrote, directed, and edited Cafe of the Mobile Gods, a 7-minute short film which was accepted into the New York Short Film Festival in 2018. I was also in that film. Okay.
Thank you so much for that performance, Mike.
Oh, yeah. I had one line, but it's the best line in the film.
It is the best line in the film.
Afterwards, Brian took a break and worked several years for the city, which was a calculated error. During this time, he studied markets and economic boom and bust cycles. He learned short selling, market valuations, options, and public equity trading. Currently, he's a manager of a retro video game store and speculate in the industry of collectibles, old school electronics, and video games. So we have the right man for the job to not only review this film, but talk about stocks.
Stocks.
But before we do that, I didn't know about Gotham.
I mean, I stood in. Okay. I was a stand-in. I think I did some photo doubling on it as well. I never had like a leading role or a line, but it's a fun show. It was a good project.
Yeah, I remember watching it. Obviously, we're in a comic book store. Of course, I watch Gotham, but I didn't know that you had any part of that. That's pretty cool. That's new information for me. That's awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, I would say I probably worked maybe like 2 to 3 weeks on that project.
Cool.
Amazing. But we always start off our show with a childhood memory. So, Brian, we want to ask you a question. When did you understand, like, what rich meant? Like, being rich? Like, where did that kind of come, to you?
I think I understood being rich mostly from movies, probably. I would watch different movies, and I would be like, wow, like, that's a nice house.
Right.
That's nothing like my house.
Right.
So, Richie Rich, funny enough, when I was a kid, I was like, wow, like, how do I get a house like that?
Right. Yeah.
It's obviously, fantasy, but I think, little silly movies like that made me curious. It'd be like, whoa, how do I get lifestyle like that?
Similar for me, movies, comics. So there's two that stick out to me. One is DuckTales.
Oh,
because,
the gold.
Yeah.
He got all the gold.
Yeah.
He jumps right into that.
Dude, how bad did you want to just jump in that money,
I
man?
just always wanted to. But then when you get older, you realize if you jump into a bunch of coins like that, you're going to break your neck.
Yeah.
There's no way you could dive in the way he did. But that was one.
Is that Scrooge McDuck?
That's Scrooge McDuck, yeah. Scrooge McDuck is how I learned what money is. And then the second one that really did it for me was Bruce Wayne. Because you have to have a lot of money to fund the operation of being Batman. So, but it's similar, it's just fictional characters, fantasy, but you realize all these characters have all this money and are living these elaborate lifestyles, and you're like, how do I get to be Batman? And then you realize you need a ton of money and you have to go to the gym a lot more than I do, but that's how I figured it out too.
Yeah, and for me, I think this was like very big in the '90s. I just remember they're going like lifestyle of the rich and famous, and I just remember like seeing those like I felt that was always playing. Like maybe it was on Howard Stern, like clips. Maybe like my parents were driving me to school, I would hear that, or I don't know, but. Also, like
that was with Robin Leach.
Yeah, and just like similar to what you were saying, like, watching movies, like you hear about a movie star or a rock star, you think about how much money they had, and like
or Blank Check. Did you see that?
Yeah.
It was like that's a crime that kid committed, like a felony. But, but it was a great fantasy. I remember being a kid and enjoying that one as well.
Yeah, I think in that movie, I think he was trying to think of a name. He was like Mr. Macintosh because he looked at his computer, and that's how he was like looking for something as like an alien. So nice.
I also feel like they were rich in Home Alone, although they never actually say it.
Yeah,
he's like upper middle class. I feel like
no, I mean they
like
took
upper
their entire family on vacation like twice,
and the father paid for everybody.
And the father paid for everybody.
Uncle Frank was cheap.
Yeah, they're definitely they did well.
They did well.
They did well.
They did well. Mm-hmm. They weren't great parents,
right? Mm-hmm. But he didn't drive a fancy car though. I think they had like a station wagon, right, in the garage, right? Because he forgot to close the garage door, right? So, but Brian, I think we didn't see it at the same time, but I'm curious how you felt about the movie Dumb Money. What did you feel?
I did like it. I thought Paul Dano specifically really did resemble Keith Gill. I thought he was very good in the movie. I think the movie overall, it missed some important details about what actually happened, but this is Hollywood, so it has to be wrapped up with a bow the best way possible. I would say I'd give it maybe a 7.
Yep, I gave the same exact score. Yep. Mm-hmm. For me, I think I'll start with some positives. I like the this was directed by Craig Gillespie. This is the same guy who made I, Tonya, Lars and the Real Girl, Cruella, The United States of Tara, and Pam and Tommy. So this guy does have...
That's actually a really good resume
right,
this
right.
guy
He
has.
is talented. And the movie's
Lars and the Real
made.
Girls,
right. Mm-hmm.
Very underrated film, so that...
So was I, Tonya.
Yeah.
I never seen that. I always wanted to see it.
That's
never
a great movie.
I think my brother saw that.
That actually gives me more of a reason to want to catch it when I get an opportunity.
Mm-hmm. And I think what makes this movie pop is the acting. Paul Dano, he's great. Shailene Woody, remember her?
She's awesome.
Yes,
she's good.
She's underrated.
I forgot about her, but she was great. All the acting is in this good. You have America Ferrara. Seth Rogen. He does what he needs
Reliable.
to do. Yep, a perfect word. Yep. Pete Davidson, he's funny. He brings the charisma. Nick Offerman, you've seen that guy in a bunch of films. Vincent. How time pronouncing his last name? The guy from Full Metal Jacket.
D'Onofrio?
Yep, that's it. Thank you, PJ.
Also the Kingpin.
Yeah, and he plays actually. And he nice, and he actually plays Steve Cohen in the film. That's why he wears the Mets hat.
Right.
So, but yeah, other things I like about it, it's funny. It's right. You could definitely tell the director Craig, he took inspiration from The Big Short, 100%, absolutely. I thought of Wolf of Wall Street a little bit. Mm-hmm. Some of the attitude, some of the tries to be very raunchy, and it reminds. I love this movie. I think it's underrated. Boiler Room. I love the movie Boiler Room.
Boiler Room's a very good movie.
Yeah. So those are my positives. I think I agree with you, Brian. It's just this is a very surface level. It's close to 2 hours, maybe hour 45 minutes, I think.
I think it's just under that, yeah.
Right. So it's not a bad movie. You're going to enjoy it, but it's like you said, it's not getting, it's like the cliff notes of what happened. It's like the MTV movie version of what happened, where you kind of wish you kind of went into almost like the Social Network type of thing, or Wolf of Wall Street, where they got deeper, what's really happening here. So
I don't even really understand all what happened. So when we get to that point of this episode, you're going to have to explain it.
Yeah.
So
I will try my best.
Because I tried to follow it, but I was just I don't know what's happening here.
Right.
I don't know where this money is coming from.
Right. Before we get to that, that's a great point, because my fiance said it. I kind of I understand what happened, but a lot of people that heard, actually people in the theater leaving, said this, and I looked in reviews afterwards. I saw it. They also said the same thing, that after they watched the movie, I was like, I got what happened. At the same time, I don't really know what happened, and I think a movie that a different director or writer could have went deeper, like a Fincher or something like that. But this was that kind of movie. This was like I said, the rock star version, especially with the music.
Of course.
So
I think it was also there was probably only so much that they could say, because there's still sort of court proceedings and stuff.
Oh yeah.
But in the regulation side of it is still being they're still trying to figure out exactly what they want to do. But I'd say, like you said, for like a Cliff Notes version of what actually happened, I would say it still gets the job done.
Absolutely. It's enjoyable.
I thought it was very soon for this movie to come out because
I think you're right, PJ.
It just it didn't have enough time to settle down. Like you said, there's still stuff happening with this movie, with this whole real life event, this saga, where it's not finished yet, and you're pumping this movie out because it's fresh in people's mind, I guess. But
and it was time. Yeah, it's an exciting story. It needed like something deep, like an Aaron Brockovich type film, like like bam,
Yeah.
But like you brought up Wolf of Wall Street, but that's not something that happened 3 years ago.
It's like the 90s,
right? That happened a while ago. Yeah, and you have time to like really understand how you want to make that movie.
Yeah. Even Jordan Belfort wrote his biography. Right. Before that movie was ever officially.
This movie coming out feels rushed.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's capitalizing on a recent event. Right. It almost seems like.
Right. I'm sure someone will write another film like this down the road. Right. Absolutely. A more probably darker version or deeper version for sure. But like PJ said, Brian, can you kind of give us, the folks at home, what the hell is games? We know it's a video game store, but what made this phenomenon? What makes it so juicy that they made a film out about this? What is it?
Yeah, it is very complicated, and I think that's why even trying to explain it in the movie, like you said, it could be very dry. So in that dry narrative is difficult to turn into entertainment.
Right.
But basically, because I actually I witnessed it like kind of happening in real time, and I made the mistake of believing that it would be resolved in a more efficient, like adequate way. And I wish I didn't believe that, because I would have taken a large position and be like, oh, forget it. Let's go. Let's just go. You know?
But how do we get to the point where there's people making this money and GameStop where is this? Where does this start?
Right. So
what's the genesis of what the hell happened?
So basically, like, it comes down to the short selling, and when short sellers try to open a position, they're betting against a company and basically betting that it's going to either fail or it's going to drop dramatically in value. When someone opens a large short position, let's say like a financial firm, like a hedge fund or something like that, they are selling. They're basically borrowing shares to sell. They're borrowing shares and selling it at the current price with the intention that they'll buy it back later, because they're basically selling it to somebody else, or like the brokerage or whatever. And then they're making a promise or a commitment to have to buy those shares back at whatever the price will be later, in the future. So, but in order to do that, like you are let's say you sell 1,000 shares short, and then you're selling it at $20, right? So you sell 1,000 shares short at $20. You're hoping it goes to $10. And then that 1,000 shares that you sold short, when it goes to $10, you buy all those shares back, and then you gain a 50% gain.
Right.
Do you understand that?
I get that. I'm with you.
Okay, so, but the thing is, the difference is your maximum gain, if it's just going to be sold short, is the most it could be is like 100%, right? Like if it goes to zero, or it goes to pennies, right? But the risk of it is that the price can go to 20, then it could go to 40, then it could go to 60, then it could go to $200. And guess what? You sold short at $20, but now it's $200. You have 10x losses of what money you put in. But you don't even have that money, let's say, if you're like a regular person. So you lost 1,000% of your money, 10 times. You understand? Yeah. As opposed to if it was 100%, if you were just buying a regular position of actual shares, and the most you could ever lose is 100%, right?
Right.
But in this risk of a position, you can lose money basically to infinity.
Wow. So what made the price then go up?
Well, so allegedly, this is just like what the number that's been tossed around is, and this is not in the movie.
Right.
The amount of shares that were sold short were 140%, right? But 100% of shares existing in the market is all of the shares, right?
Right.
That's everything. But, due to lack of regulation, lack of oversight, it's 140% shorted, right? But that's 40% higher than the amount of shares that even exist in the public market, right? So when all people needed to do, shareholders, is just hold 100% of the entire float of all the shares that exist in the market. Okay, you're following me?
I'm with you.
They just have to hold the 100%, and that 40% that is floating in imaginary land, they can't buy it. They can't buy them back because they don't exist.
Right.
So then the price could just go to it could literally go to infinity. Like the price of the shares can go up and up and up, and they keep going up until there's enough shares that are available for them to buy back.
Right.
But if no one's selling, there's nothing to buy back. You understand what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so to bring it back to the movie, and so you explained that really well. So the main character is Keith Gill. So he was this guy, regular guy. I think he worked in financials, right? And then he started his own, I think, YouTube channel.
He was a working class guy, yeah.
Working class guy. Started a YouTube channel, and then he did research like Brian. And Brian, I'm gonna try to give the maybe the cliff notes of this. So basically, he saw that these hedge funds were betting that GameStop was going to fail.
Go bankrupt.
Right. They're betting on that. And he did the reverse, where Keith Gill, the star of the movie, he did the reverse, where I'm going to invest in it, almost betting that they're going to win, right? I'm just in terms of making the simple language here, right? So, with the movie now, Brian, how did Keith Gill, or AKA Roaring Kitty, that was his gamer tag, whatever it was, how did he caught fire? What made him like the guy who kind of propelled this whole thing?
I think he proposed a thesis. I think it was also because GameStop was being depressed so much, like the price of it.
Right.
He proposed a thesis that it was severely undervalued, and that buying at the prices that he was buying at was a guaranteed return. And from what I understand, he actually thought, because he was probably buying in the $3 to $5 a share range, and I think his own words, he thought it would go to at least $20, and that was clearly an underestimation.
Right.
But so that was his whole reasoning behind it. He thought it was like a 5-bagger, right? The idea of it being a 100-bagger probably wasn't even in his line of sight or his line of thinking. Maybe or maybe not. I can't speak for him exactly, but so yeah, and the idea was that the price was depressed, it was undervalued, and that he YOLO'd pretty much his life savings into a $50,000 position, and he did that with call options, and he did that with physical shares.
Mm-hmm. Now, wasn't there a whole Reddit push to make this happen? Also,
yes. Well, he had 2 channels where he was doing this from. He had his YouTube channel on Roaring Kitty, and he had his Reddit, which was Deep Fucking Value.
Right. Fantastic.
And, yes, and he proposed his thesis of it being undervalued and why it was undervalued and why he thought it would be a good investment. And he proposed that both on YouTube videos and on Reddit on Wall Street Bets.
It's just a crazy story to think that this guy kind of manufactured this into happening, and it's got so big. There's a wrestling storyline about this. I don't know if you guys watch wrestling.
Oh my god!
There's a character in wrestling who they use this to make him almost like a new $1 million man. That's his new gimmick because he bought into GameStop at the right time. And
this is a new character.
Yeah, it's a new character, and the whole gimmick is that he bought into GameStop at the right time, and he became a new $1 million man. They brought back the old $1 million man as part of the storyline because now this guy is the new richest guy in wrestling. It was a whole thing. That's how big this story got. It became a pop culture phenomenon.
It's there's a mythical aspect to it. It's good. I would say Keith Gill is sort of a modern folk hero. He is a kind. You could.
It's like a Robin Hood.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, like, in order to understand him as like a modern folk hero or like a Robin Hood type, you have to have like some sort of skepticism to like what you're being told. And like he is someone that understood that. And you know, a lot of people, it's hard for them. Like they can't go into that realm, you know, because to be fair, like what he was even saying was like it could have been argued as like a conspiracy theory.
Right. It's an anti-establishment sort of stance to take on things. You're going against the grain to do this.
David versus Goliath.
Right.
So, the way they sold the story.
Right. So just so the folks at home understand, so what Keith did was he basically told everybody, says, hey, us regular folks, if we all put our money together, I'm doing the simple version here, right, that we bet that GameSpot does not tank, right? We'll, you know, we won't crap out, you know what I mean? Like, we'll win. We'll win that roll of the dice.
Right.
And that obviously...
It's not going bankrupt.
Right, exactly. They bet on that, and then that turned into this huge thing where the stock exploded.
It was viral. It was like a cultural phenomenon.
And then there's all these guys like Steve Cohen and...
was it Ryan Cohen?
No, Steve Cohen. This guy owns the Mets.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
And I forgot the other guys' names, but
Ryan Cohen was the GameStop the board member. That's right. Yeah, that's right.
So, but yeah, so in that film, that kind of what they show you what happened in real life was, you know, that's why it was on CNN. It was that GameStop was exploding, and then I guess the real controversy was behind the scenes. Was it Wall Street bets and Robinhood stopped? Right,
they shut the site down.
Right,
they
so
said hate speech.
Right, they were saying hate speech because they were just trying to find a way to stop this from.
Right.
They were trying to
derail it.
Yeah.
Right,
or to kill the momentum.
Exactly.
Yeah,
which was, you can't do that.
Right.
So, which later on in the film you see, and happened in real life, was Congress got involved. You know? Keith had to go on, and this is during the pandemic. Was it 2021?
Exactly.
So they're doing all these hearings literally virtually via Zoom. You know what I mean? So I think that's also some comedic flair in the film, too. Like some guy is muted, blah, 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 blah. Seth Rogen's character at one point. But anyway, he's giving his testimony. But
he really said, like, I am not a cat.
Right.
During the testimony.
Oh, yeah. Keith Gill?
Yeah, he really said that.
Is that the one where he had like the filter on or something like that?
I don't know.
I know what you're talking about. I think you're thinking of like that meme or like that guy that like yeah.
Right. So the joke of I'm not a cat is his name was Roaring Kitty.
Yeah.
So
it's a crazy thing. It really is. And what's even crazier about it is that by all accounts, GameStop should be going under.
Right.
It should.
It should.
It's really not that great.
It's not. Like that's what's really crazy about the whole thing. Because if you go into a GameStop now, there's not everything's on clearance all the time. And no one's buying physical games. Everyone's just downloading the digital copies because it's so much easier. I heard that Best Buy might stop carrying physical games.
Yeah.
And DVDs and Blu-rays. They said next year they're officially done.
So by all accounts, it should be going like under because no one wants that anymore. And yet this guy made it happen, man. Good for him.
Right. Yeah. If anyone that actually listened to him early on did very well. Like if they actually followed him into the same position, which is so crazy.
Do we think it can happen again though? Do we think that? I mean, not with GameStop probably, but like any other business. Do we think there's a way?
I think that they're like the brokerages and like financial like firms are gonna keep their eyes open more. Like they wouldn't want a mistake like that to happen again.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying it can never happen again. It's just I don't think in the recent future it's likely.
Right. Because they've learned how to protect themselves.
Maybe 20 years from now.
Yeah.
And then it's a new batch of people to screw things up.
Right.
And I think you know, and Brian, I have like this is like, hear me out for a second. So in real life, in the film, they show that when it was catching fire, you know, GameStop, he had this I don't know, slogan, this rally call of like, we're going to the moon. Or he would be like I guess like stuff from Braveheart, like never back down. I can't remember all the lines from what he said.
Well,
and
to the moon is the catchphrase of the wrestler who used this as a storyline.
So Brian, my question to you is, when did you start following Keith Gill? Like during this whole phenomenon, because at one point, sometimes, in our group chats, when I have with Brian, with other friends, this guy was literally flipping out that day. He was basically yelling at us. He was cursing at us. He was saying, like, you Fs, you better go to the moon.
Did
like,
I say that?
Yeah, he was flipping out. And I was like, all of us were panicking. Maybe either Brian's a genius or he's gonna come and shoot us. I don't know.
Oh my God.
So my question is, Brian, when did you start, like, no bullshit, like, when did you start following Keith? Did you just catch on when CNN was blowing up, or were you there with him when he only had 2 subscribers?
No, I was not with him when there was only 2 subscribers.
Okay.
I wish to God I was with him.
Right. So when did you hear about Keith? When did you hear about Mr. Kitty?
I understood him when I was, because I would use like stock twits, like some of these apps,
Right.
and I would just sometimes browse through the forums, and like you have to describe what I was seeing is a little complicated, but like like all of a sudden you're on a forum that has very little volume. There's
on Reddit.
There's not that many comments.
On Reddit, you mean?
Yeah, or
Okay.
not even Reddit. Stock twits. There was many forums that were happening
right.
simultaneously. Reddit gets obviously the most press.
Right, yeah,
But,
I
but
don't
there are
have any clue what
multiple
that's
stock
about.
like platforms that
Right.
people talk about stocks.
Yeah.
And I remember just seeing like just the volume flow just exploded. And like
Right.
all of a sudden, you're seeing things like it's scrolling like it's happening so fast. I can't even see what's posting.
Right.
It's scrolling like hundreds and hundreds of comments are going off all at once, like bing, 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 and like I'm like, what is going on? And then that's when you start like trying to evaluate what is it exactly that's happening. And I did not catch it like early enough. I saw it happening while it was unfolding.
Right. So, like, was this? I'm trying to think in the film. Was this during January or February when that thing was starting to really catch fire?
It was the very end of January.
So that's when you could. Like, so you were kind of on the.
I was witnessing
the crest of this wave. Then you were kind of on the surfboard before, it got on CNN and the newspapers. Basically,
I watched it probably right before it, but by then,
right before it got on CNN.
Yeah.
Okay.
But honestly, by then it was kind of already too late to really to really
capitalize
on that.
Okay.
And I was on vacation. I think I was in Jim Thorpe when it was really going down. I think I was in Jim Thorpe when it was like $20 a share, and people were sort of talking about it on the forums, and I just thought they were all crazy.
Right.
I was like,
well, it sounds crazy.
Yeah,
it does sound crazy
because it sounds like madness.
Yeah,
right. Because it is like this. Everyone's like, we're literally all gonna do this together as a giant family. Of
an
across the
army.
country. Right.
And so that's the way
an
it was
army
described.
of regular people. Like civilians. Your leader. I'm sorry to cut you off. Your leader is a guy named Roaring Kitty. So it's hard to like you said about before.
That's what makes it so
Yeah.
poetic.
That's exactly. That's to buy in. Literally, to buy in, you have to follow this dude.
Roaring Kitty.
Right.
But the narrative that's pushed by the media, and I won't go into all my thoughts on mainstream media. None of them are good, but I won't go into that. Is that this became a movement to take down the man, take down the infrastructure.
Yep.
And I don't, when you hear about it and the little bit that I've read about it, I don't necessarily feel like anyone went into this to be a crusader so much. I think the media...
Trying to make money.
Yeah. They're just trying to make money.
Yeah.
I think the media switched this into making this a crusade against all these trust funds and hedge fund people and the holding down the rich, the top 1%. They made it into like this is a battle against them, and I don't think that's what his plan was. And I think the media twisted that narrative, and I think that pushed this further because that was something people wanted to buy into. Like, oh yeah, I want to take down the top 1%. I want to take down all these trust fund babies, these hedge funds. I want to do all this, and this is how we're going to do it. But I don't know. Do you think that was actually his plan, or was
I don't think it was necessarily Roaring Kitty's specific plan, but the type of people that got caught up in it.
Yep.
Like, you have to understand, like I said, I was reading those forums while it was happening. There was a lot of people like posting about 2008. There was a lot of resentment, a lot of anger that had been built up probably for the better part of a decade. And they were talking about, like 2008, like my family lost their house.
Right.
Like, my dad never got a bailout. The banks got a bailout. Like, this is our time.
Right.
Like, there was a lot of that going on the forums. And so I wouldn't say Roaring Kitty himself was thinking that, but there was definitely a movement of people that followed into that.
And I think that's kind of like an unintended consequence, as they say. We're like, hey, they were actually taking down the man in this movement. You know, like you said, I don't think Keith was I want to make some money. And then someone else, you know, with the same kind of mentality said, like, you know, we're at the same time we're actually doing this 1-2 punch. You know, let's and that's probably one of the other reasons why it exploded.
That's
too.
what I think that narrative
people
was
could even
so
put $1 in it just to go you know, bow. You know
I knew people that were doing that. They would just buy like a share and they'd be like, because they were mad, they were angry,
exactly.
And then but there's one thing again. It's not really brought up in the movie. It's called a naked short, and that's what GameStop was. It was a naked short because, like I said,
that's what they used to call me in high school.
They don't mention it in the movie.
So can you explain what a naked short is?
Yeah, again, it's like I tried to my best of my abilities explaining it earlier. Like the 140%, right? 140% share shorted. 40% of that's naked. Like I said, it doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
So it's naked. So in naked short is illegal. It's an illegal.
The plot thickens.
Yeah. So like in the financial world, like naked shorting is supposed to be illegal because the risk of any public equity, GameStop, whatever it is, runs the risk of being able. It's called cornering the market. That's what a naked short is. So it corners the market where you have one public equity in the market, whatever company it is, GameStop. We're using that as an example. Obviously, it's relevant. It can be priced to infinity. You can't have anything priced to infinity because if something can be priced to infinity, that means like technically, like the only way to cover that is every other company has to sell like all their shares, everything, to fix that one naked short that's in the market. It's like a glitch. You see what I'm saying?
It's a glitch in the matrix.
Yeah. So. That's why it's supposed to be illegal because it's a mistake. It's not supposed to be part of the game, but in this particular instance, it was.
Interesting. I want to bring up this, Brian. Let me see if you think this is the correct definition. So the name of the movie is Dumb Money. Okay. So this is what I found online. Okay. So here we go. So. Institutional investors and mutual fund companies are labeled smart money, while retail or individual investors are called dumb money. The terms dumb money and smart money are coined by the financial media, and not to insult anyone's intelligence, but just to describe the different groups of investors. So is that a fair definition?
I think, I mean, retailers are always going to be considered kind of wild card. It's just that's just the nature of the game.
Right. Well, that's exactly what you said because I got these resources online. I don't have the exact thing. It's not at Wikipedia. It was like Business Insider or some crap like that. But basically, what it is, I should have highlighted this, but basically, I don't want to read this whole thing out. But big institutional investors and mutual fund companies are labeled smart money. These investors have somewhat of an unfair advantage over your run-of-the-mill individual investor. Armed with the teams of an experienced investment analyst, smart money investors can evaluate exactly what's going on in the market, allowing them to make more informed investment decisions. This does not necessarily mean they always make smart decisions. In fact, plenty of them make bad trades from time to time. They are simply have access to valuable information that allows them to make more educated choices. Okay. On the other hand, the average investor, so maybe someone like me, generally does not have the time, experience, or the patience to methodically analyze corporate reports or the global economy because these investors don't have access to teams of analysts or carefully compiled data. They often make trades based on instinct or gut feeling, kind of like my man Keith. Consequently, dumb money groups tends to buy and sell investments at the worst possible time. They buy stocks when prices are on the rise and sell those stocks when prices start to decline. For the average investor, the stocks when they go up on to underperform, and the stocks they sell go to perform very well. Perhaps this is why average investors' portfolios typically earn 1% to 2% less than the average mutual fund. Okay, so, and a partridge in a pear tree. So, but yeah, I mean, that was heavy-handed right there. So, sorry for, we're turning into an educational finance channel, but
we really are, because last we did how to start a business. Now we're doing stocks.
Yeah.
We've turned a corner on our on what we're talking about.
But I guess my thing with this, kind of going back to what PJ was saying, like where do we go from here? Like how do people? Now I think this movie and the whole phenomenon of GameStop has made people, the everyman, the average man, want to like learn about it. Like, how do I make money now? I think everyone is more invested in it now. So I guess, Brian, my question to you is like, where does it start? I mean, just in general, where does it go from here? And how do people get involved? Like, how do someone right now listen? They go, you know what, Brian? You know what, Black Guy Brian, he inspired me to go into the stocks. Where do I go? Do I go to the bank? Do I go? Do I meet a guy around the corner? Do I go to? Do I meet Jordan Belfort?
There's plenty of brokerages that you could open a money market account with. I mean, there's all sorts of different ones. E-Trade, Charles Schwab, TD Ameritrade. Like, those are just, the standard institutional brokerage houses. Obviously, Robinhood is the one that's controversial. That is part of the they're considered the bad guys in the GameStop saga. Yep. But yeah, I mean, anyone could invest. People just have to understand that there's always going to be a risk attached, no matter what. Just because past performance is not always an indicator of future performance. But probably the S&P 500 is probably the most popular thing. People that really don't have the time, they don't have the know-how,
resources,
they don't have the resources.
The education.
So if someone just wanted to invest in the general markets, you can never go wrong with the S&P 500. But in my opinion, those returns are going to be, they're going to be steady, but it's going to be minimal. So people that are willing to take bigger risks, obviously, I
think that's right. Bigger the risk, bigger the reward.
All right, so let me ask you this then. All right. We're sitting here in Cool Kids Comics and Toys, 2055 Hempstead Turnpike, East Meadow. Shameless plug, right? And now I want to go big, right? Everyone wants a comic book. Everyone wants a toy. We're getting big. So now I'm going public, right? What do I do? Do I go to Stratton Oakmont? Am I like, how am I?
To open as your own public company?
Yeah, if you wanted to do that.
I'm not so familiar with that process.
Because what do we do so that we can do that? And then we GameStop the shit out of this store. How do we do it?
No, you asked me before, would that happen again?
Right, yeah.
Your company would have to open 140% short.
Right.
Instantly, everyone's like, that's going bankrupt tomorrow.
Right.
They just opened. And it's like, then maybe.
Right.
But, like I said, the process of opening up a public company, I'm not so familiar with that, that process.
Okay, no problem. Brian, anything else before we cut loose? I think we're running out of time at our lunch period.
No, I mean, like I said, thanks for having me. I think...
Any upcoming projects anywhere the folks can follow you at home?
Project? You know what? There's nothing really cooking right now, I'll be honest.
That's okay.
Yeah. What if someone wants to hire you to be their financial investor? Can they do that?
Yeah. No, I would not. I'm not certified, so I don't want to take that liability.
Or about the folks who want to, maybe they're hearing this, maybe they have their own, maybe they work in television or film, where can they find you? If you're back in the acting.
I have an Instagram, Brian Nicholas Rossi. Pretty straightforward, simple.
Perfecto. Well, Brian, thanks for coming, and we're excited. We're going to have Brian on for a actually, you know what? This episode might happen after the Halloween episode. But, okay, we're going into the future, or whatever, the past. But he's going to be around for our Halloween episode. But you know the deal. Same time, same table.
Have a good one, kids. Make good choices.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Boys and girls, lunchtime is over. Please visit PJ and Mike's website, coolkidslunchtable.podbean.com for more information. Follow the boys on all social media apps. Just search Cool Kids Lunch Table Podcast. Now get to class before you get detention.